because what I realized that I wasn't doing in past relationships was that I wasn't really paying keen attention to what the other person needed. I was into my own fantasy world about what I wanted in a relationship and how it's supposed to look and all of that stuff, and not really diving too deep into the other person.
Are you ready?
Hey there, and welcome to Get Off the Bench, where we talk success, business, life, and how you can make your dreams into reality. Your coach is an international speaker, published author, business and speaking coach, known to his audiences as the Speaker Man. His dream is to move you from the bench to the starting lineup of life.
And here we are again, 47-yard try, his longest attempt of the game. He has just as quick.
Your man, this is your Kodak moment.
Hey, did you hear that? The game is about to start, and you need to get ready to get in the game.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Here's your coach, Mark Wiggins.
Hey everybody, it's me, Mark Wiggins, and welcome to my show, Off the Bench, with me, your host, Mark Wiggins. And today we have on a very, very special guest. Her name is Jewel Guy. Jewel Guy is a beast in her own right. I think I started tracking her on LinkedIn. Saw a post, checked up on something, and she wrote some stuff and has a great book out. But as you know, I don't do bios. So I'm going to bring Jewel on, and Jewel's going to tell us everything we want to know about her, and then we're going to get into our conversation. Jewel, are you with me?
I am.
All right, you're up. Go.
All right, so my name is Jewel Guy, and I would classify myself as a healer. So I am interested and focused on all things healing. So I got into this journey, ironically, after I left an electrical engineering career because I just had a passion for helping people, but I didn't know how and in what vein that would happen. So I turned to photography, where I found a love to capture people's authentic and transparent moments. And then I quickly figured out that photography wasn't going to be the main medium to communicate messaging. So I moved swiftly into videography and documentary making, where I fused photography and videography to do my first photo documentary series called Show Your Love, where I interviewed over 50 couples, 50 black couples specifically, to tell their story, and not just the pretty stuff, the transparent, the honest, the things that we don't typically ask. So that means trials, tribulations, challenges, moments that you wanted to walk away, why you stayed, and how you maintain a relationship. So that was actually my first book, which is an ebook. And then after that, I created a list of different things within the black community that I wanted to touch that people seem to shun or shy away from. And so black men were on my list. And as I began to think about where to start, because I wanted to create a documentary, of course I turned to my husband, who is a black man, and we began to have dialogue. So now, I would say before the book came out, it was October 21st, 2018, when I decided that I would specifically and consistently post to black men affirmations, questions, and apologies that most people weren't saying on a consistent basis, or there were apologies that they had never heard. So I am in this realm right now of what I call healing the people. Starting conversation and creating dialogues around topics that we normally shy away from.
Okay, that was a lot.
Yeah.
That is a lot. That's deep. So it's interesting that you would I thank you for sharing that and bringing us up to speed on where you are. And it's interesting that you would pick the arena of black men. Most people in the empowerment world or the healing world, whatever, for some reason, draw women. what is your reasoning outside of black men need help? We know that, and I agree. I fully agree with what you said. But what drew you to that? Was it your husband? Was it relationships you had with other men, your fathers, your brothers? What drew you to that particular spot?
Yeah, so great question. So I would initially say my husband, having honest and transparent conversation with my husband, because we're about 4 years in.
Okay.
And when I first met my husband, he was an amazing communicator where I wasn't. I grew up in a family who typically kept all your feelings in. You don't really show how you feel. Things kind of fester on the inside until one day you blow up and everybody's trying to figure out what's wrong with you. So somehow this man was able to extract a lot of those things and create a safe space for me that I could not only deal with my issues, but begin to hear and understand what he was enduring as a black man. Because what I realized that I wasn't doing in past relationships was that I wasn't really paying keen attention to what the other person needed. I was into my own fantasy world about what I wanted in a relationship and how it's supposed to look and all of that stuff, and not really diving too deep into the other person.
Wait.
And if I was,
hold on, let me
I would
jump in.
say that it was more selfish.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let me jump in. Back up. You said you were in your own fantasy about what you were expecting, your expectations about your relationship / marriage or whatever. That's what I heard?
That is correct.
Isn't that interesting? So,
yeah.
So where does the man fall on their expectations? You've done some research. You're engaged now. You're hearing from black men. Tell me what our expectations are in relations and how does that differ from what women are looking for?
Oh, wow. So that's a deep question, because the way that I approach this is on an individual level. Mm-hmm. So although I say dear black men, that is, I'm calling to black men individually, right? So they hear the all call, but then they each get to tell me something.
Right.
I would say that in one of my posts, probably about a few weeks ago, I asked how black men are approaching relationships these days. And many of them said with caution.
Oh, wow.
With extreme caution. Some people said, I'm putting everything on the table, like I'm not holding anything back. And that was really the consensus of those who actually answered the question. I'm sure that there's a lot of thought processes that's going on in people's heads that they didn't put down. But caution was like the common denominator between all of them.
Being cautious. That's interesting. And so out of those discussions, you created this book and, Dear Black Men. Your hopes are to do what with this book?
So Dear Black Men is to, first one, create a safe space for black men to say how they feel without feeling judged. Because what I've realized over these 9 months of posting and being transparent and creating a safe space is that a lot of times men are holding in a lot of the stuff that they're going through, a lot of the stuff that they're thinking in order to, quote unquote, keep the peace or not have, a person blow up on them, right? But what does that create? That creates a ticking time bomb. We have feelings and emotions that we're supposed to express as human beings. So man, woman, whatever you identify as, you have feelings. Mm-hmm. And so you are supposed to be able to express those things. And I'm finding that a lot of men haven't been able to do that. So one is creating a safe space, and through this book, hopefully processing the way that they feel without any type of interruption or judgment. The second thing I want to do with this book is for it to be a discussion tool. So if I were giving this book to a man that I love, a man that I care for, whether it's a spouse, a family member, whoever, I would want this book to create opportunities for dialogue between that black man and myself, right? Once he feels like he is in a safe space to share, so that I can posture myself to listen, to understand, right? And understanding doesn't mean that you have to agree, because we all have different opinions, right? But if we don't allow a black man to say how he feels, why he feels what he feels, before we're interjecting, before we're saying our part, before we're trying to just, dismiss what he's saying, posture yourself to listen, to hear, to understand. Because when you understand what he's saying, what he's feeling, now you're understanding the whole person. And I guess the last thing would be is to really make this a national discussion, where we're looking at each other as human beings, where we're giving people the opportunity, black men specifically, to feel the way that they feel and make that normal. That's the biggest thing.
Right.
Because you were saying before that, when we're looking at healing and doing things, it's usually in the space for the woman. But if the woman is healed and the man is broken, what type of relationships can we expect?
Not a whole one.
And so, exactly.
Right.
So go ahead.
And I love your points. I love how you are making these directions for the book to go. And I know it's for not just men, it's for women. And I feel like, because, being a black man over on the side over here, I feel like I hear what women are saying, and we as black men have to overcome a whole lot, because society, the women in our lives, the ones who raised us, all that, did not instill us that ability to express ourselves and demand.
Yeah.
People say, I'm going to demand my safe space. I'm going to make my boundaries. We don't do a good job setting boundaries. Like, I hear you, but you're not going to stop me until I'm finished. You know what I'm saying? We don't do well with that, because it comes out as anger. It comes out as aggressiveness. It comes out as all that kind of stuff, as opposed to, let me get it out of me into the ether, and then let's deal with it. We're not encouraged as black men to do that, especially now with everybody talking about, and you're in this space talking about mindfulness and mindset and all of that, and men's mental health right now, buzzing men's mental health. This is part of what the discussion that you're having is men's mental health.
Absolutely.
And hopefully that your audience is grabbing onto this, both sides of the aisle, and saying, "Oh, yeah, I got my piece, but let me then extend that over to my significant other and create that space together, or for men that are in my world, in my space, so they can be whole and healthy as well." Is that where you're trying to get to?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the way that I always present this is from my perspective, or from my point of view. So if it's an apology, the apology is coming from me, right? Because I cannot speak for all black women. I cannot speak for all experiences and all of those things. But the people with which the statement resonates, those are the people who are like, "Ooh, ouch, that's me." Okay, yep, I can remember me doing some stuff like that. Okay, I got some people that I need to go apologize to. It's not a forced thing. I'm speaking directly to black men. I'm not accusing women of anything. It's just an idea in the room. And it can be a mirror if people choose it to be so. But definitely, this opens up space to have conversations, to be transparent, to be open, to be willing to dig a little bit deeper. Because like I said before, I was caught up in a fantasy world. But a lot of times when we get into these relationships, we're not asking people about how they grew up, how they deal with conflict. Are you accountable? Are you responsible? What does that look like to you? We go in with assumptions.
Right. You want
to know we're really not
score.
Like
you want to know my FICO score, and my 401k, and my portfolio.
Yeah.
And all those can go away. And if I lose my mind, we got major problems. So
that's right.
That's like, you can't be the best man you can be, period, if your mind is not in a good place. I can't take care of you as a woman. I can't take care of relationships, my children, unless I am healthy. But you're right. We as black men are dealing in spaces where we're fighting through. And unfortunately, while we're okay we could be so much better as fathers, mentors, and whatever if we could just learn to express ourselves and put it out there and deal with the real of what we are and what we're doing.
Absolutely. And then it's like you were talking about before about boundaries, right? Because there are men who are out there communicating what they want, what they feel, and all of that stuff. But from what I have heard, there are women who are just not receptive to that. Women who have said, like, you're too honest. It's almost like, I'd rather you lie to me, make me feel good, let those endorphins flow, instead of you telling me the truth, right? So it's a definite mindset shift that has to happen across the board.
I want to shift over. Thank you. Let's shift over to your healing part of what you do in your business. Talk to the audience about that part. I know it's important to you. Go ahead and tell us about it.
Absolutely. So I think healing shows up in many spaces, right? So with Dear Black Men, it is mindfulness, communication, being able to communicate what you feel, to release those things. So that's a part of healing. I'm also a life coach. So I'm always looking to help people obtain their goal and like what their life, looks like. But a lot of times it starts with the person on the inside. Like, what are you saying to yourself most of the time? Our self-talk is usually the direction that our life flows.
Brutal.
So what we're saying to ourselves, that dialogue that's happening on the inside of us, we have to be very mindful about what that is. I'm also a Reiki practitioner. So Reiki is a Japanese energy technique that basically helps to relieve your stress, relaxation. If you're familiar with your chakras, your energy centers, it helps to remove any blockages. So like mind-body healing type thing. And I also, deal with, I'm an ambassador for CBD products, but healing in so many different facets, because some people aren't going to come to me for Dear Black Men, but they may come to me for Reiki. So I'm just positioning myself to be in a place to be a conduit of healing as much as possible.
How do people, let me be clear, how are Black people receptive or being receptive to your Reiki, I always say it wrong, pardon, your energy practice? How are they receptive to you?
So, it all depends on what their background is. Because I know myself, I grew up in a Christian home, and so all of these energy practices, meditation, that didn't involve scripture was pretty much off limits. But as I had grown, I found out that a lot of this stuff is exactly what people have needed and what I needed, to sit, to be silent, right? The Bible talks about, meditating, but it doesn't necessarily say meditate on what? Like sometimes it's the word, but sometimes you might just need silence. You might just need to rejuvenate. So for the most part, I'm in a part of a healing community. So a lot of the people that I surround myself with are already either curious about it or have had Reiki performed before. So they are pretty receptive to it. And more people are learning about it and the benefits of it. Doctors and therapists are recommending it because you can never have too much Reiki. We have the life energy inside of our bodies. It's there. Each one of us has it. Plants have it. So it's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah, I've actually had Reiki done on me a few times, as well as acupuncture and things. Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
It is the truth. And I agree with you. Growing up in a Christian household, oh, it's a cult. Oh God, no, don't do it.
Yeah.
And so when I went to do some yoga, I was doing some hot yoga, whatever, and meditates. Oh my God, I flash back to my days of church. Oh, it's bad. Okay, but can I meditate on some scripture up in here? Can I call to mind what I need to call to mind in these moments? I don't have to do anything extra. You know what I'm saying? It's what's needed. It's the breath, it's the breathing, the relaxing, the focusing, clearing the mind, and learn to push away all that extra noise and clutter we carry in our head, which affects us. It affects us.
Yes.
I remember one time I went to do some acupuncture and went to a place up in Gaithersburg. And the guy walks in, I sit down, and he says, okay, let me see your arm, your hand, blah, blah, stick out your tongue. Okay, all right. He goes, all right, so you have trouble sleeping, you're not hydrated, and your kidney's not working. I said, what? I said, what do you mean my kidney's not working? Oh, no, your spiritual kidney, your energy's blocked. I said, man, don't play with me. You can't tell a black man his kidney's not working. That's not what I want to hear. So I get on the table, he puts the needles in, and he goes, you're going to go. I was asleep in like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I woke up, my mind was clear. I drove home. I'm like, I'm not really thinking about anything. And that was the beginning of understanding, like, you know what, there really is something to that wellness piece of self-care, of mental release and all that keeps you going. Because, you know, as a healer and as a coach, you pour out a whole lot. You know, the question, where does a healer go to get healed? That's the good question. So
yeah, and so it is a big thing for me to take time for myself. Actually, what's really funny is that this month of July was basically my rejuvenation month. I had to minimize as many activities as I could. I don't know how many people I told no to this month. Can't lie, I felt good. Because I'm always used to being like, oh, yeah, I could do that. Yeah, sure. Okay, let me just squeeze that in, and then finding myself burnt out, you know. So in these days, I'm learning how to pace myself, you know, to do Reiki on myself, to meditate. I have a porch, you know, that I sit in as much as possible just to listen to, like, the birds and, you know, what's going on in the area. I have a new garden now, so that's my therapeutic piece, you know, getting my hands in the dirt and just really, like, reconnecting with nature is where I find my rejuvenation. Or I just surround myself with people in the community of healing, because it's good to, as we call, fellowship, right? To create space with like-minded people who are, you know, who are also healers to rejuvenate.
That's awesome.
But that definitely takes discipline.
Right. Now, do you do a lot of speaking on the topic? You're on panels, you travel around the area. I think you're in Maryland. Is that correct?
Yes, I am in Maryland.
Yeah,
yep. So right now, I speak in smaller places. Like I might do something at Impact Hub with doing like a lunch and learn that allows people from the community to come in and learn about different topics. I'm working on like my family and my friends. You know, just exposing them a little bit at a time to like Reiki. I'm always Reiki-ing my husband. You know, my goddaughters and things like that. I just had one call me the other day and was like, hey, I just wanted to tell you it was ironic. My therapist, you know, recommended I have a Reiki treatment. I was like, okay, we need to set up a session. So, you know, I do, and I expose people who are close to me and people who come in my path. As a matter of fact, I just brought to mind a friend of mine just asked me about coming to do some Reiki at an event later on in August. So it's spreading. People need it.
Awesome.
People want it. People are becoming more open to it because they're trying a lot of different things and it's not working as effectively. But when we learn how to control the mind and the body, I'm telling you, these things just come into alignment. You just let things be, release, let go, not trying to fix everything.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So, Jewel, tell the people where they can get your book and how to contact you. Go ahead and drop all your information.
Okay, great. Thank you. So Dear Black Men is actually on Amazon, so you can go to Amazon.com. You can search Dear Black Men, Jewel Guy, and it'll bring you right to the page. You can follow me on IG at jewelguy.co. My website is also www.jewelguy.co, and you can find me on Facebook at Jewel Guy.
So basically just Jewel Guy, right? Just Jewel Guy.
Just basically Jewel Guy. You can find me.
Awesome. All right, so I have one last question I ask all my guests. I'm going to ask you this question.
Sure.
My question is, What do you do daily to stay in the starting lineup of life?
That's a great question. Okay, so two things.
Okay.
Daily, I accept who I am and where I am in life. I am not racing anyone. I am not in competition with anyone. I am content in who I am and the position that I am in that moment. And I'm always practicing gratitude because, as it said in The Secret, that gratitude is the great multiplier of life. So in everything that I do and everything that I experience, I practice gratitude.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And everybody be sure to go out and get the book, get to Amazon, follow Jewel on all her social media. I have followed her, and I'm looking forward to catching up on her posts. And we'll love for it to come back onto the show at some point in time to talk more specifically in depth about what you're doing and how we can benefit from that as a people and to get better and whole and move on to the next level. So that being said,
thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for accepting my follow on the gram. Everybody, so let's wrap the show down. And as always, if you can reach your dreams with a step ladder, then they're probably too low. I'm out.
Thank you for listening to Off the Bench with your coach, Mark Wiggins. Be sure to like, comment, and share this podcast. And follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at SpeakerMan87. And be sure to use the hashtag #GetOffTheBench to let Mark know you're listening. When it comes to success, only you can give yourself the permission you need to have the success you desire. Now get off the bench and get in the game.